Hi everyone, this video is going to be a little bit more of an advanced example of doing parametric modeling in Blender, and we're going to be using the equations that I've got up here in the top right corner that you can see right now. It says Japan Pavilion, so that's got a range for U and for V, and then some equations for X, Y, and Z. And these equations, when we get them into Blender, are going to be representing a structure called the Japan Pavilion. So we'll spend some time building this example. I'll give you some other architectural structures and their equations that you can use to build them. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit more about how you can take a final picture and some of the more interesting things you can do fairly easily to make your final picture a little bit more interesting. So I'll start off by showing you what this Japan Pavilion is supposed to look like. And that looks something like this. So the architect here is Shigeru Ban, and they made this structure that you can kind of see is loosely based on a grid, and we'll be able to make something that looks like this and play around with that a little bit. A little bit of a preview of some of the other things that we can look at. So this is the Arc Nova by Anish Kapoor, and this is an inflatable structure. It's a concert hall, actually, so you can see this is starting to be inflated. Here's what it looks like from the outside once it's all been inflated, and here's what it looks like from the inside. So we'll be able to make this interesting shape here. This is the Mur Island, and you can kind of see how we might start with a grid, and then looking at this looks like at least part of a sphere kind of coming in on itself, and so we'll be able to use some knowledge about spherical coordinates in that one. And this next one is the Sun O house, more of an art piece in here, but we'll be able to make this kind of organic looking shape here, so it'll just be one of those. So starting with this Japan Pavilion, I can at the very least start off by just deleting everything that is kind of already in our example here. So we were working with this kind of egg crate surface, or sorry, egg carton surface on here. So anything between this UV grid and this is going to be our output over here. So anything in between, we can go ahead and delete all of that. So what I'm going to do is just box select everything over here and hit either X or delete, and that should get rid of everything here. I can also disconnect these X and Y over here, but that's going to just give me a completely blank canvas. You can see there's nothing here, and I'll be able to work with this Japan Pavilion. Okay, so the first thing that we have here is that X is equal to V. So what that means for us, this is our output X, and remember that in our UV grid, this is our U, and this is our V. So anytime we need a U, we're going to grab from over here. Anytime we need a V, we're going to grab from over here. So if X is equal to V, that means we should be taking this V and plugging it into X. Okay. The other two are going to be more complicated. So before we get into that, I want to set the these boundaries for U and V, and if it's not already looking like this, you can click on this wrench menu over here, but This is where we have our minimums and maximums for u. So it looks like u goes from 0 to pi, and v goes from 0 to 5 pi. You can plug in 3.14 into this, but thankfully Blender, if I think about my u minimum, that's 0. And for my u maximum, thankfully Blender, I can just type in pi, letters pi, and that'll plug in pi for me. V minimum is going to be 0, and V maximum is going to be 5 pi. So I can hit 5 and then asterisk to say that I'm multiplying. So 5 asterisk pi. Then I'll hit enter, and then those are all set up. I'm going to leave my vertices at 64 and 64 for now, and just see what that looks like once I'm finished building it. Okay, so back to these equations here. This next one, what I'm going to be building is, it looks like in order, I need a sine of v divided by 4. I'm going to add 2, and then I'm going to multiply that by cosine of u. So again, instead of reading this equation from left to right, 2 plus sine of v over 4 cosine of u, we want to think about the order of operations that we're working in. So the first thing I want to do is take a v and get a sine function in there. So if I hit space, I can do, again, if I look for sine as a function, it's not going to find that for me. I need, all these are going to be math nodes. So if I search for math, then I can get a math node like that. I know that I'm going to need a whole bunch of these, so rather than just hit the space bar and add them every time, I'm just going to hold Shift and D, Shift D, Shift D, and just keep adding these until I have kind of a nice set of math nodes here. Okay, so that first one, the first thing I need to do is talk about sine of v. So I make it a sine node, and I'm going to plug v into that. So v goes into here, and then what's coming out of this is sine of v. What do I want to do with that sine of v? Well, I want to divide it by 4. So I'll make this a divide node. And I'll say here's the numerator, or the top value, and here's the denominator. So this is sine of, so v becomes sine of v, then sine of v gets divided by 4. Okay, so what's coming out of this then is sine of v divided by 4. Next thing I want to do is add 2. So I have an add node here. What am I adding? Well, I'm adding sine of v over 4 and 2. And then the last thing that I need to do is multiply this by cosine of u. So I'll make a cosine over here. U can get plugged into this over here. So u in this cosine node will give me cosine of u. And then let's see, what am I doing with these two things? Sine of v divided by 4 plus 2, that's what's coming out of here. Cosine of u is coming out of here. So I think I'll actually rearrange this just slightly. Okay, so I have my cosine of u and my sine of v divided by 4 plus 2, and I'm going to multiply those two things together. So I'm going to add a a math node here that says multiply, and I'm going to multiply my cosine of u and my sine of v divided by 4. And then all of this is equal to y. So in the end, my y is going to be equal to this. Looking at what I've got here, seems like we're on the right track, at least for one of these variables. So that's looking good. Now, I could, if I wanted to, I could take this entire, for z, you can see the only difference is that we're multiplying by sine of u instead of cosine of u. So one way to approach this would be to just take all three of these nodes. This is sine of v divided by 4 plus 2, and copy that. So I could duplicate that, plug my v in over here, and then multiply that by a sine of u instead. But this is a much cleaner way to do this. So you can do it that way. All right, and I'll even show you because that is one way that you can do that. So you plug in your u and then, plug in your v into this so that you get sine of v divided by 4. Duplicate the sine node, plug u into that, and then multiply these two things. And plug that into z. So that is one possibility, but a really efficient way to do this, and a way that's going to be useful for some of the more complicated formulas that you have for some of the other objects there. One of the techniques that you can do is, if you think about what's sort of the output at this point here. So we have sine of v divided by 4 plus 2. Whenever I plug this into anything, what's coming out of this node, or the output of this node, is going to be that sine of v divided by 4 plus 2. So I can use this over here to multiply it by cosine of u, but I can use it again. Right? I don't have to just have it plug in one spot. What I can do is have my sine of u So again, plugging u into my sine. So this is my sine of u coming out of it. And then when I'm multiplying that same thing, sine of v divided by 4 plus 2, and sine of u. So I'm kind of just reusing this same sine of v divided by 4 plus 2 over here, and I'm using it over here, and this one is going to get plugged into z on there. The reason I like doing it this way is because if you decide, for example, to start messing around with this variable here, it's not going to just affect one side of it. It's going to affect both pieces of it if you want to play around with those variables. So if you want to experiment with just modifying it in one direction and not the other and kind of see what that does, then you're free to do that. But this is just a couple ways to accomplish the same thing. So this is my example here for my Japan pavilion. And in terms of things that we can mess with in here, the usual suspects of being able to, adjust these variables here. What happens if we have pi, or, we can see this is, if I adjust the maximum V over here. That's going to be adjusting the length of this, you know, kind of this concavity, right? We can get some interesting effects with this, right? This is the kind of the great thing about parametric modeling, is you get to experiment a lot with, you know, these kind of setups, and just find something that you like. In terms of the final render, Blender has a camera and a light by default, so I kind of added those to the scene. If I look at this view up here, I can see this is my light that I'm looking at, and this is my camera on here. And by the way, I'm hitting the N key to get rid of this menu, or turn it on and turn it off. Actually, now that I'm doing that, I'm going to turn on my screencast keys so you can see what letters I'm pressing. So if I want to view my object through this camera over here and start changing what that camera looks like, I can hit the 0 on my numpad over here. You can also click on this button or over here. And what that does is that just zooms into whatever your camera view is showing on here. Now, by default, anything that is in this box is going to be what your final picture is going to be. But since that's not kind of where we want it, and if I try to move around, I kind of lose my camera, right? I'm not in the camera view anymore. So the setting that we want to change for that, so that our camera moves with our view in here, is we want to go to, so I'm hitting N to get this menu up over here. And so under this view, we have this option to lock, so view lock, and then it should be camera to view. So it's kind of a difficult thing to find if you're just trying to find it in the menu, but that's what this button down here does, the lock on there. Okay, so anyway, this is to this button here to get to the camera, and then with this lock activated, now I can move around, and you can see that my camera moves with my viewport over here. If you want to get a bigger version of this, kind of taking up more space on here, you can unlock the camera and then just zoom in while it's unlocked, and then lock it again to change over there. So I like this setup over here. If I want a picture of what I've got over here, again, please, I will not accept a photograph that you've taken on your phone of this screen. It's, you know, it's this program is made to make nice renders on there. So what you want to do is, and don't take a screenshot either, right? That's not what we're supposed to be doing when we make a render on here. It's easier than either of those two options. We just go up here to render and then hit render image. So I'm going to switch over to my display so you can see what that looks like. Not great, right? So it looks pretty different from what we have in our camera. And the reason for that is because our lighting is a little bit off, right? So what I can do to fix that, I'll go back to my Blender here. So what I can do to fix that is I need to change this light and maybe add some more lights on here. To get a more accurate view of what I'm looking at, This is the different types of views that you can have of an object. So the options here are wireframes, so you can kind of see what it looks like on the inside. And if you like this sort of setup, then I can show you how to. I can show you how to make it look like this. If you like that version of it, here's this version of it. That's solid. That's what we've been working in. And then we've got the material shader. And then this one, depending on how nice your laptop is, or kind of whether you're working on Mac or Windows, you might want to save before using this one. But this final rendered view, this is what it's going to actually look like in the render. So for this rendered view, just a quick troubleshooting thing. If this crashed your computer when you tried to do this, you may want to go into this kind of television icon here and switch from Eevee over to cycles. That'll give you maybe something that'll operate better on your computer. But Eevee is really nice. Eevee, I'll show you what cycles looks like. So cycles kind of, every time you change your view, it'll kind of update that a little bit. You can see some of the they call them fireflies on here while it kind of tries to update that. But Eevee kind of gives you a better, more efficient look at what's happening here. Okay, so let's try to fix this light here. One thing we can do to fix this light is if we click on the light, then we have some properties down here in the light bulb menu. So the light bulb menu, that's going to allow us to change the power of this. It's currently at 1,000. But if I change this to, let's say, 4,000, that's just making a stronger light on there. Maybe we can mess with, pretty much all the settings on here. Changing that radius, that kind of gives us some more even lighting on here. Maybe that's what we're looking at. That's what we're kind of trying to look after. Experiment with some numbers here. You can also change the color of this. That's kind of a nice look to it. You aren't limited to just this one light on here. I tried to place it in kind of a spot that might just naturally be good lighting. But if you're not happy with where that light is, you can just click on it, making sure that you're in object mode. So hit tab if you see Suzanne monkey in there, and you can move this object using this over here. The keyboard shortcut is G. So G is what I'm used to. So if you hit G, then that'll kind of open it up and you can move it wherever you like. Over here, maybe I want to place it over here and kind of get a little bit more contrast, like that. If you hit G and either X, Y, or Z, that'll also limit. So if I hit X, it'll only move in the X axis. Y, it'll only move in the Y axis. Z, you can move it strictly up and down. But if you just hit that G again to move it around, then you can put it wherever you like. If you want multiple lights, then you can do the same thing that you did to copy a math node. Just select it and hit Shift D. And then that'll give you a copy, and you can left click to put it wherever you like over here. I think a nice kind of lighting setup is to have one light be one color and one light be another color. So you can see we get this nice gradient effect on there. That's one setup that we can do. Another thing that we can start messing with. So if I click back on my object and I go to the wrench menu. In addition to kind of messing around with the boundaries for our U and V, we can also mess with the vertices over here. So right now you can kind of see this is the amount of blocks that we have on here. If we want to really smooth, let's try 256 for each of them. So if we like a kind of smooth setup over here, we can see we really get no noticeable polygons on here. That might be the kind of look that you're after. If you want to think of something kind of being a little bit more structural looking on here, you can experiment with that. All right. Everything here is just kind of something for you to play around with. Another common one that I really like to use for these kind of architectural projects is I can add another modifier. So geometry nodes is one thing. That's kind of turning Suzanne the monkey into, all of this stuff here. If I add a modifier, we want to go to generate. You can either search for this or go down to add modifier, generate, and then wireframe on here. So what wireframe does is that takes each of those parts of the grid and gets rid of the faces and just leaves the edges on here. So if this is what you're after, then we are all set, and you can take your render. But this also has some options that you can mess with. One of the ones that I think has a big impact is adjusting the thickness of each of these. So if I go, that's in my wrench menu, if I go to the wireframe here and start playing around with the thickness of it, then I can get some interesting effects. This is a good opportunity to kind of mess around with number of vertices, right? Maybe you're looking for something like that. One more thing I wanted to show you with the lighting setup is, so if I zoom out and kind of click on my lights, this is what's called a point light that just kind of emits light in a sphere. But we can also have area lights. If you're somebody that's interested in interior design, you can start thinking about lighting setups. That's kind of a big deal to kind of get that lighting looking good. By the way, when I clicked on that light, if I hit area light, that sort of shows you where the light is pointing, and you can hit R to rotate how that light is pointed on there. So that is one. You can also click on this rotate tool and kind of use that if you like. So when you're satisfied with your result, and I'll show you what a sun looks like. A sun is incredibly bright. I think a value of 1 is a little more normal there. So I'll change that back to its original settings. Okay, so that's our kind of lighting and modifier setup on here, and I think that's looking pretty good. Satisfied with how that looks. Other things that you can be doing, again, save a copy when you kind of have before you start doing any experimenting with this. So I'm going to save now, but in this modifier menu, again, selecting my object here, if I click on this wrench, wireframe is just one of the modifiers that you can put onto this. There's all kinds of ones that you can add to it. So I'll just show you. We've got a deform. What's the one I'm looking for? Or they rearranged everything in this latest version of Blender. Here we go. So most of the things in the generate modifier are kind of what you're after over here, but one of them could be screw on here. So this is your sort of high concept, high rise building over here. Right, something like that. Or maybe you want to take this right, something like that. Maybe get rid of the screw modifier on here, or sorry, get rid of the wireframe. You could also change this to be a, so if you want to get rid of a modifier, you just hit X next to it. Generate. We can also do a mirror modifier, right? Just mess around with all these different combinations here. If you find something that you like. Right, play around with everything. But the idea is that, like, whatever you're messing around with, if you want those geometry nodes back, just click on the geometry nodes in the wrench menu. You can start to, just play around with everything, right? Get something that you're satisfied with. But whenever you are happy with what this looks like, so I'm going to go back to something that was a little bit more reasonable. I think that was my setup that I was after. So once you're satisfied with how it looks in the camera, I'm happy with this. By the way, if you want to change, we don't have to have this gray background over here. If you want a different background, you can just go to this globe icon world and click on the color, and you can change it that way. If you're not thrilled with how the light is kind of affecting your object, then you can turn the strength down of it on there. Anyway, lots of things you can do with this. But when you're happy with your setup over here, you can save it, go to render, and then render image. And then this will take you to your final render. So this is what I want you to submit. Don't take a screenshot of this. Don't take a picture of this on your phone. Go to this image. Sorry, I forgot that the display doesn't show on here. There we go. So again, I went to render image, and this is what I end up with here. So I want to, this is what I'm having you submit. So if you go to image and save as, then that's going to save this image. Just kind of put it in a folder that you know where it is, and then that's what I'll have you submit for your final project. In the next class, I'll definitely answer any questions that you have and kind of help you troubleshoot your way through this process. But if you want to get started trying to make this Japan Pavilion or some of the other objects that I showed at the beginning of the video, on Canvas, I'll have a list of those equations, and you can start trying to build your own and sort of experimenting with lighting and modifiers and the camera and things like that. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you in class.